Good evening, welcome to QUT Web News. Queenslanders turned on the sun and some big crowds for Queen Elizabeth's visit to Brisbane. It was a flying visit, only hours long, but for tens of thousands of Queenslanders, it'll be a day to remember.
I'm very glad to be back here in Brisbane on my 16th visit to Australia. Over the past 3 decades, I have watched this city and this state come of age.
Queen Elizabeth was greeted by the Premier Anna Bligh as she flew into the Sunshine State this morning.
I thank you, Your Majesty, for visiting our state, and on behalf of all of the people of Queensland, a very warm, friendly Queensland welcome.
The Queen had a very busy day, beginning with a cruise along the Brisbane River, where the Premier pointed out the sites that were worst affected by January's disastrous floods.
We are very pleased that our river that brought you here today is on her best behaviour. 10 months ago, it was a very different story.
The Queen and Prince Philip greeted the huge crowds, posing for pictures and accepting flowers. Some people have been staking out prime positions since the early hours of this morning, just to catch a glimpse of Her Majesty as she tours the South Bank parklands. From there, the Queen attended a private meeting with flood and cyclone victims and emergency personnel who helped during the disasters.
And I wish you, the people of Brisbane, every success as you continue to rebuild the damage from the storms with the energy and optimism for which you are renowned.
The royal couple had lunch with the Premier and the Queensland Governor before returning to Canberra to complete the rest of their Australian tour. Ellie Bradfield, QUT News.
The royal couple have been greeted by a sea of 45,000 well-wishers at the South Bank Cultural Precinct. People young and old took advantage of a perfect Queensland spring day to catch a glimpse of the royal pair.
It's been 23 years since the Queen's last visit to Brisbane, and locals weren't going to miss the opportunity to see her. Young and old, excited fans lined the banks of Brisbane River, hoping to catch a glimpse of the Queen. The crowd was thickest at South Bank, where tens of thousands gave a warm Queensland welcome, a welcome Her Majesty enjoyed.
Today, Prince Philip and I have been greeted with great warmth and good humour in the true Australian spirit.
Most people believe today's visit will be the last opportunity to see Queen Elizabeth.
I've never seen her before, and it'd probably be the last visit she makes to Australia.
It's probably the last chance I'll probably have before she passes away, so yeah, I wanted to see her.
I've had a few opportunities to see her, but haven't taken advantage of any of them, and I figured this is, I reckon it's probably very close to being her last visit to Australia.
Despite the event falling on a school day, thousands of children skipped school to witness the once-in-a-lifetime experience, with the okay from the Education Minister.
The Education Minister said it was okay, so I thought, well then that's fine, because they won't have this opportunity again.
With people of all ages waving and cheering like this, it really is a reception fit for a queen.
It was so joyful. I was nearly in tears because she looked so beautiful and she's still the same.
The Queen returns to Canberra tonight before visiting Melbourne and Perth, where she'll officially open the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Nicholas Chin, QUT News.
Not surprisingly, the royal visit has sparked resumption of the debate about whether or not Australia should become a republic. Today's larger-than-expected crowds in Brisbane suggests a majority is cheering for the Queen to stay.
Recent polls show 55% of Australians are in favour of keeping Queen Elizabeth as our head of state. But ask the crowds at South Bank, and here it was probably closer to 100%. Thomas Bradley from Australians for Constitutional Monarchy says there are 2 groups strongly supporting the current system of monarchy, the under 25s and over 55s.
And therefore the arguments for and against were a bit more prominent when they were at school or when they were at university, and so they're a bit more familiar with the arguments and maybe a bit more educated about them than their predecessors.
At the same time, around 1/3 of the Australian population wants constitutional change. Michael Keating from the Australian Republican Movement says in 2011 our government system should be more reflective of society.
How confusing it is to people in our region and in the world for us to say we have an English lady as our head of state.
To become a republic, Australia needs to hold a referendum with results reflecting a majority overall, but also winning over 4 out of 6 states. But the Premier, Anna Bligh, confirmed Queen Elizabeth is still very much our monarch.
Your visit here is a reminder that the care and concern of the royal family and the nations of the Commonwealth are still very much with us.
Louise Cheer, QUT News.
A young Brisbane girl has been presented with a Bravery Award at her primary school in Thornlands. She pulled an injured school friend from underneath a turning truck.
Saprita Pangjam received a pleasant surprise during her regular Monday morning assembly at Thornlands State Primary School. Queensland Ambulance presented the 11-year-old with a certificate of appreciation after her valiant rescue of a friend.
The Assistant Commissioner Gavin Trembath would like to recognise Saprita Pangjam for her extreme courage and bravery in this particular situation. Saprita stood with her schoolmate, stood by her side and assisted her until we got there. In fact, she stayed with her after we were there.
Saprita was walking home from school on Friday, August 12 with 8-year-old Emily Vo when an unlucky choice led them to cross a busy road in a different pattern than usual.
Then I pressed the button on the light, and then when it went green she walked off first, so I didn't know. And then I went and then I saw the truck coming. Then I couldn't grab her before she got hit.
A turning truck was unable to see Emily and hit her with its front wheels before Saprita stepped in.
The truck was still rolling when Saprita ran in and pulled her friend out from beneath its wheels before she could be hit again.
Saprita's father, Glenn Jeffrey, was feeling the day's emotions.
But my daughter, she was the heart of gold. She just acted and did it. And so everyone in our family's proud of her.
He had one thing he especially wanted to say about his daughter's actions in August.
She's just a champion and a superhero and a bloody legend in my mind.
Caitlin Ritter, QUT News.
Now to sports, and tragedy has struck at the Malaysian Moto Grand Prix.
Italian Honda rider Marco Simoncelli was killed when his bike collided into two other riders competing in the Malaysian Moto Grand Prix. The 24-year-old was well known for his flamboyant personality and will be greatly missed by his racing colleagues and fans. At the Gold Coast 600 on the weekend, Mark Winterbottom has driven forward to victory. It was an action-filled race with many drivers cutting corners and forcing multiple collisions.
Hang on, oh dear.
Winterbottom secured a thrilling win in the last few seconds of the race, overtaking Jamie Whincup near the finishing line. The New Zealand All Blacks are World Cup Rugby Champions for only the second time in 24 years. In a gripping match against France, which proved tougher than many expected, New Zealand won by just 1 point.
And the All Blacks are the world champions for the second time.
Finally, in netball, the Australian Diamonds missed out on victory by 1 point in their game against the New Zealand Silver Ferns yesterday. The Diamonds fought back from an 11-point deficit at half-time to take the lead from the Ferns. But victory was stolen in the last few seconds by New Zealand shooter Maria Tutea. Natalie Ross, QUT News.
Time now for a look at the weather from our time-lapse Skycam. We can see it was a golden Jubilee day in Brisbane today, a few large clouds appearing around midday, clearing up by the afternoon. Around the nation tomorrow, and most of our capital cities will experience some showers. Sydney's in for a hot one, reaching a top of 34 degrees. Our southern capitals can expect a chilly start to the day, with a low of 8 degrees in Hobart. That brings you up to date with the weather.
And that's all the news we have for you tonight.
We'll be back tomorrow night with more QUT News. Good night.
Good night.